Good morning all. Today's topic of discussion is VLSI testing and analysis part 2. Objective of this lecture is to make the student familiar with necessity of fault modeling and the common fault models. So why we should go for this fault modeling? The I/O function tests are inadequate for manufacturing. So functionality versus component and the interconnection testing. So it is difficult to apply all set of inputs and check all set of outputs because it is a time consuming process and then that will add into the product cost. The real defects, often the mechanical, are too numerous and often not analyzable. So each and every physical defect cannot be analyzed separately. A fault model identifies targets for testing. So we have to find out the minimum set of inputs which will test maximum functionality of the chip. A fault model makes the analysis possible and the effectiveness is measurable by experiments. So which are the different types of defects in chip? It may be a processing defect like missing contact windows, parasitic transistors, oxide breakdown, so many are there. Then there may be some material defect like bulk defect, cracks, crystal imperfection, so surface impurities like ion migration, etc. Then time dependent failures, dielectric breakdown, migration, or it may be a packaging failure like contact degradation, seal leaks, etc. So if you'll observe the different defects in the layout and if we'll categorize, then the different defect classes are shorts in the layout or some opens, missing component, wrong component, reversed components, bent leads, analog specification variation, digital logic change, or the performance in terms of timing. And the defects due to these classes with the frequency of occurrence are given. So if you'll check the table, then it is found that 51% occurrence is due to the defect class shorts and others are very less like opens only 1%, missing 6%, wrong component 13%, and likewise. So most of the defects are due to the different shorts. So there may be some short connection between the successive pins or nearby wires which are running. So those type of faults, the occurrence is around 51% of the total. So the different fault models are prepared based on these shorts because most of the faults are due to the shortings. The first category is single stuck at fault. Then next is multiple stuck at fault. Stuck at fault is nothing but the particular input or particular output gets permanently stuck to some value, like it may be a logic 0 value or a logic 1 value. So irrespective of the functionality or the inputs and outputs given to the chip, a particular point is stuck to permanently either VDD or VSS. So that is called a single stuck at fault. If such multiple faults will be considered at a time, then that fault model is named as multiple stuck at fault. Next is transistor open or short. Then the fourth one is bridging fault. Bridging fault means the nearby connections get shorted, or the output gets shorted to input, the feedback path. So that type of fault are called as bridging fault. Then pattern sensitive fault, mainly it is applicable to the memory. Then single cell fault or a cross point fault, then delay fault and the cross defects. So these are some of the common fault models, and now one by one we will see the details of these different types of fault models. Before that, we will see the classes of stuck-at fault. Following classes of single stuck-at faults are identified by the fault simulators. Potentially detectable fault. The test produces an unknown state at the primary output, and detection is probabilistic, usually with 50% probability. Like the different shots which just now we have seen. Then initialization fault. Fault prevents initialization of the faulty circuit and can be detected as a potentially detectable fault. Then hyperactive fault. The fault induces much internal signal activity without reaching the primary output. And then redundant fault. No test exists for the fault. So we cannot detect whether that fault is present or not. And next is untestable fault. The test generator is unable to find a test. So first we will go for this first type of fault, that is called as the single stuck-at fault, which I have highlighted in the different types of faults. The first one is single stuck-at fault. The single line stuck-at fault means a particular pin gets connected to either VDD or VSS. Thus, a given line has a constant value, either logic 0 or logic 1, independent of the other signal values in the circuit. It will not change. The properties are: only one line is faulty. The faulty line is permanently set to 0 or 1. The fault can be at an input or an output of a gate. Simple logical model is independent of technology details, and it reduces the complexity of fault detection algorithm. So in a complete circuit, at a time only one line is faulty, that is the consideration, and based on that the set of inputs is obtained. So one stuck-at fault can model more than one kind of defect. So we'll take one example circuit which consists of one NAND gate, one NOT gate, and two OR gates. And in this circuit, one of the connection is stuck to a permanent value, that is stuck 1. So the gate which is highlighted with the yellow color, output of that NOT gate gets permanently stuck to 1, that S/1 is nothing but the stuck at 1 fault. So what will happen to the circuit if this fault occurs? And how this fault will occur, that is shown in detail in the layout. This is the inverter layout, and in this inverter layout we can see that output line, the upper one, and the output gets shorted to the power line. Means irrespective of the input signal given to the inverter, output of inverter will remain permanently logic 1. So what will be the effect of that? how to find out which particular set of input can detect this particular fault. So the set of inputs are shown in the diagram. To the first NAND gate, we have given the inputs 1, 1. And to the second OR gate through inverter, we have applied logic 1 as one input and other input is 0. So if the input is 1 and the inverter output is permanently stuck to 1, what will happen? So in normal case, output of inverter should be 0 and the second OR gate should give the output as logic 0. For the first logic gate and NAND gate, both the inputs are 1, 1, so that will also give output 0. So without fault, the output of the circuit will be 0. But as this inverter output is stuck to 1, output of second OR gate will be logic 1, hence output of the next OR gate will also be logic 1. So without fault, output will be 0, with fault, output will be 1. So this is a particular set of input which will verify this fault. Instead of this, if the inputs to the NAND gate are 0 and 1 or 0, 0, fault cannot be detected. So we should apply the set of inputs which will provide you change with a fault. So without fault, we should get some output, and with fault, the output should get altered. It should change. Then only that particular set of inputs will be useful for finding the fault. So how many number of stuck-at faults are there? Single stuck-at fault. So they will be considered separately. One at a time will be considered. But in this given circuit, you can find out how many such fault sites are there. The fault sites are shown with red bubble. So while considering the number of single stuck-at faults in the given circuit, we have to find out the number of PI, that is the primary inputs, plus number of gates plus number of fan-out branches, and that will give you the total number of sites. Like in this circuit, we have the primary inputs. There are two primary inputs. Then we have this A, B, these are the primary inputs. Then this is C, which is going to this NAND gate. Then we have D, E, then F, then output of this NAND gate G, input to these NAND gates are H and I. So at every stage, all the inputs and all the outputs in the circuit, those points are to be considered as the fault sites. So the given circuit is having 12 fault sites. So if you'll just count the red bubbles over here, that count is equal to 12. And these dots or the fault sites may get permanently stuck to logic 1. So that will give you 12 faults, and all these points may get stuck to logic 1. So logic 0 or logic 1. So 12 plus 12, there will be total 24 single stuck-at faults. So like this, we can find out how many number of faults may be present in the given circuit. Then in these types of faults, the second category is multiple stuck-at fault. Multiple stuck-at faults. So several single stuck-at faults occur at the same time. So in the previous circuit, those red dots indicate the fault sites, and what we considered, as per the fault model, we consider that out of those 12 sites, only one site will have a problem at a time, and that's why the name was single stuck-at fault. Now in the second type of fault modeling, we can consider there are multiple sites at which at a time the fault may present. The multiple stuck-at faults are usually not considered in practice because of two reasons. the number of multiple stuck at fault in the circuit with k lines is 3 raised to k minus 1, which is too large a number even for circuits of moderate size. So if the last circuit is considered, at a time it is multiple stuck at fault, means 2 fault may be present, 3 fault may be present, 4 fault may be present, and in that also which 2 or which 3, which 4, there are so many multiple combinations. So total number of faults that we can consider is 3 raised to k minus 1, where k is the number of lines. The tests for the single stuck at fault are known to cover a very high percentage, greater than 99.6, of multiple stuck at fault when the circuit is large and has several outputs. So single stuck at fault model will also cover most of the faults, but for the remaining small percentage of coverage, we have to go for this multiple stuck at fault, which is very complicated and time consuming. So most of the time, instead of multiple stuck at fault model, single stuck at fault model is preferred. Now the next category of fault model is the transistor open and short faults. So the MOSFET itself may get open or shorted. So MOS transistor is considered an ideal switch, and two types of faults are modeled. Either stuck open, means the transistor is permanently stuck in the open state, that is turn the circuit into the sequential one and need a sequence of at least 2 tests to detect the single fault, unique to the CMOS circuits. And the another category of fault is the stuck on. A single transistor is permanently shorted irrespective of its gate voltage, means it is permanently on. So detection of stuck open fault requires again 2 vectors. So if it is a stuck open or a stuck short, in both the cases we require 2 set of vectors. Detection of stuck on fault requires the measurement of quiescent current, that is IDDQ. IDD is the drain current and IDDQ is the drain current quiescent value. So let us consider one transistorized circuit in which we have 2 MOSFETs which are P MOSFETs and 2 N MOSFETs. So total 4 MOSFETs are there. P MOSFETs are connected in series and N MOSFETs are connected in parallel. So we will apply a set of vector 1. So it can test for A stuck at 0. So we have the 2 inputs A and B. So that is the initialization vector for the test. So I will apply this set of input. A is equal to logic 1 and B is equal to logic 0. So what will happen? In the normal case, when logic 1 will be applied, N MOSFET will be on, and when 0 will be applied, N MOSFET will be off, and it is vice versa for P MOSFET. So now our A input is logic 1. So if A is logic 1, this first N MOSFET will be on and this P MOSFET will be off. B is 0 means P MOSFET will be on, N MOSFET will be off. So due to that, what will happen? What will be the output? So as this upper P MOSFET is off, there is no chance of connection with VDD, output connection with VDD. So output gets connected to ground through this N MOSFET. So output will be logic 0. Output will be logic 0. Now, if there is a stuck open fault, this particular P MOSFET gets stuck open, what will happen? Even if it is stuck open, because of this A equal to logic 1 input, without fault also that MOSFET is open, means it is not conducting, and because of fault now it is stuck open. So there is no change in the output. Output is going to remain same, that is logic 0. So this set of input will not be useful for detecting this stuck open fault. So I will try to apply another set of input, that is vector 2, and then I will apply both input logic 0, that is A is logic 0, B is also logic 0. So what will happen due to that? If both are 0 0, then P MOSFET will be on and N MOSFETs will be off. So both P MOSFETs are on, so output gets connected to VDD. So in the normal case, output will be logic 1. And now if that fault is there, what will happen? Because of fault, that upper P MOSFET is open, so there is no connection with VDD. As well as both N MOSFETs are off, there is no connection with VSS also. So output will be high impedance, that is Z. So for good circuit, for the two set of inputs, output will be 0 for the first set or first vector, and it will be logic 1 for the second vector. Whereas for the faulty circuit, previous case, there is no change. In the second test vector, there is change in the output. Instead of logic 1, we will be getting high impedance output. So that set of input is useful for detecting the fault, that is P MOSFET is stuck open. With the previous set of input, that is A is logic 1 and B is logic 0, this fault cannot be detected. Now test stuck on fault using IDDQ. So we have to measure the IDDQ value, that is the drain current quiescent value is to be measured. So apply the test vector 1 0, that is A is logic 1, B is logic 0. So for good circuit, we will be getting the output as logic 0. Now there is a stuck open fault, and what will happen due to that? Sorry, stuck on fault. So stuck on means permanently that P MOSFET will be on. Now second P MOSFET is also on due to the logic 0 input. N MOSFET is also on. So there is a short circuit through this first P MOSFET, second P MOSFET and N MOSFET. So in normal case, this upper MOSFET is off. So there is no connection. Output gets connected to ground through this N MOSFET. But now because of the fault, there is a direct connection from VDD, first MOSFET, second MOSFET and N MOSFET. And the output will be high impedance. And this is the current which will be flowing over here, that is called as the IDDQ. So for the faulty circuit, output will be high impedance. Now in this types of faults, the next fault that we are going to study is the bridging fault. So two or more normally distinct points or lines are shorted together, that is called as the bridging fault. So there are two types of bridging faults. Input bridging, that can form the wired logic or the voting model. So this is the diagram in which the input bridging is shown. The two inputs x1 and x2, there is a bridge formed between the two, x1 x2, and this bridging may be either ANDing or ORing operation. So between x1 x2 there may be some ANDing operation taking place or there may be ORing operation taking place. Then another type of bridging fault may be feedback, that is input to output bridging. Can introduce the feedback, and this is shown over here, that is Y is the output and that gets shorted to the input X. So this type of fault is called as the feedback bridging and can cause oscillation or latching. So this is one example of bridging fault model. We have the circuit which consists of two AND gates. The inputs are x1, x2, x3. One input x2 is common to both the AND gates, and the outputs of AND gates are z1, z2. A test vector T detects a fault F if and only if the faulty value of Zt is not equal to the normal value of Zt. That indicates the set of inputs should be such that the output with fault and without fault, they should be different. So in this case, the ORing type of bridge is formed between x1 x2. So we should apply the set of inputs which will give the output Z, which is different for with fault and without fault. So you have to check whether this test vector can detect the OR bridging fault or not. Now this is another circuit, the multiple bridging fault. So at a time there may be multiple faults, like the inputs are A, B, C. So C is stuck at 0, or A is stuck at 0. Sorry, A is stuck at 1 and C is stuck at 0. So at a time there may be one fault or there may be multiple faults also. So with the normal case, without fault, output Z is shown in this particular column, and because of this C stuck at 0, what change will be there in the output, that we have to find out. So there will be change which is highlighted over here. There will be change only in the fourth row. Instead of getting Z equal to 1, we will be getting Z equal to 0. So to test this particular fault, we should apply the set of inputs A equal to 0, B equal to 1 and C equal to 1. Now instead of one bridging fault, there are suppose two bridging faults at a time. That is, C is stuck at 0 and A is stuck at 1. So that will result into the fault, and which will change the output. So there will be change in the output only in the third row. Rest of the output conditions are unchanged. So the conditions which are unchanged, for that the set of inputs which are applied, those are not useful for detecting the bridging fault. So we should apply the set of input, that is A equal to 0, B equal to 1 and C equal to 0, so that the fault will get reflected in the output. Now the next, after bridging fault, the next type of fault is the pattern sensitive fault. These pattern sensitive faults are mainly applicable for the memories. The presence of faulty signal depends on signal values of nearby points. So you can see this memory, a small portion is shown over here. We have all zeros filled in the memory, and there is change here only, that is A, B and C, which are shown with blue color. Now most probably the nearby values in the memory may get reflected at A, B, C, that is that A is equal to B equal to 0 as well as C is also 0, or A is equal to B equal to 1 as well as C is equal to 1. So the presence of faulty signal depends on signal value of nearby points. So nearby points all are logic 0. So these points may also get shorted to logic 0 or may get shorted to logic 1. So most common is in dynamic random access memory. Such type of faults are more common. There may be coupling fault, like pattern sensitivity between a pair of cells, like A is equal to B. So that may happen, that always the A and B values will change simultaneously. So that is called as the pattern sensitive fault. The next type of fault is single cell fault. The cell can have any implementation. All possible combinational cell faults are allowed, and the truth table can change in any way. The constant number of test patterns independent of the circuit size, that is ripple carry adder, needs only 8 test patterns for all single stuck at fault. So this is one circuit in which we have this combination of 4 full adders. The input to the first full adder is x1, y1, output is z1, second is x2, y2, z2, third is x3, y3, z3, fourth is x4, y4, z4. And the carry is to be forwarded. C0 is the carry input to the first adder. Output carry of first full adder will act as an input carry for the next, and finally that C4 is the final carry output from the last adder. So out of these, if any one cell is faulty, then that fault will get propagated. The next type of fault is cross point faults. A PLA has a device, that is diode or a transistor, at every cross point in the AND and OR array, and the connection of each transistor is programmed to realize the desired logic. The cross point fault can be caused by an extra or a missing device. So sometimes there may be some missing device, or sometimes some extra device may be there which will result into some fault. Those are called as the cross point fault. Like we have here in this PLA, we have this AND array and then OR array. The AND array connections are shown with pink color, whereas OR array connections are shown with green color. So finally the output of this OR array will be x1 x2 bar or x1 bar x2. And for that, if you will see the connections in the first column, the connections are shown with pink color. So we have the connection for x1 and then x2 bar. Okay, so that will result into the first term. And you can see there is one additional connection over here, that is beta. So this Z beta is x1 x2 bar or x2, because this is one additional connection or the extra connection over here. Now if you observe the second column, in the second column we have this the output expected from the second column is x1 bar x2, but this x1 connection is missing over here, and due to that it will give the output as x1 bar x2. So there may be some missing device or an extra device, and that will result into the fault. Then the next is delay fault. The propagation delay along a path fall outside the desired limit, and two types of delay faults. It may be path delay fault or the gate delay fault. So whenever the signal will be applied to this combinational logic, how the signal will be traveling, how much is the path length which is traveled by the signal, as well as how many devices it has to propagate, that will decide the total delay. And if the delay is mismatched, then that may result into some fault. Like here in this case, x1 is traveling through two NAND gates. x2 will be traveling through two NAND gates in this case, and the same x2 signal will be traveling through NOT gate and two NAND gates. So naturally this path and this path, the delays will mismatch, they will not be same, and finally it will result into some fault. Then next is the transition delay fault. The transition delay fault, gate output may be slow to rise or slow to fall, and that this time is longer than the predefined level. And if the delay fault is large enough, the transition delay fault behaves as a single stuck-at fault and can be modeled using that method. The primary weakness of transition delay fault is 2 pattern sequences for initialization and transition detection are needed. The minimum achievable delay fault size is difficult to determine because of the timing hazards. Consequently, a whole mission clock cycle is usually used. And the last type of delay that we have to see is the cross defects. So we have started with the single stucket fault, then we studied multiple stucket fault, transistor open and short, bridging, pattern sensitive fault, single cell fault, cross point, delay faults, and last one is the cross defects. The wire aspect scaling with technology, the width, the height, and the spacing. So all these are decided by the lambda parameters, that is the technology scale. And as the technology scale is reducing day by day, these dimensions are also reducing day by day. So this first diagram is for 0.5 micrometer technology, whereas the second diagram is for 0.25 micrometer. So naturally, as the technology scale has reduced by half, the width, spacing, all these values will also get half. And because of that, as the wires are very near to each other, there may be some capacitive crosstalk noise results from the parasitic coupling between the two signal nets. So wherever two such wires are running parallel to each other, this may result into formation of the stray capacitance. So this is the crosstalk defect. So the signal which will be running on this wire may get coupled or may get transferred into the wire which is running parallel to that. So this is called as the crosstalk defect. Thank you.